Lotus Economic Development Corp. Let's go ahead and do a roll call so we have all the members that we know are here. So I'll start off on the very end and we'll work around.
Melody Cooper.
John Kowalski.
Blaine Lopez.
And caller, can you state your name? Greg.
Yeah, Greg, I'm here.
Okay,
Very good. So we've got four. That brings quorum, so we can bring this to the beginning of the meeting. So now let's go ahead and move on to the agenda. Put on my glasses and they're going to start fogging up. All right. So we have a call to order. We're going to go ahead and move on to the open session. So this is the citizens to be heard section. I do not believe we have anybody here to speak.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. All right, so we'll go ahead and close the open session. And we're going to move on to the consent agenda, so it's always good to give an explanation of what consent means. All consent agenda items listed below are considered routine by the EDC staff and are intended to be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a director requests it, in which event the item will be removed from the consent and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. So the items that we have on the consent agenda, 3 through 5, we have 3 is approval of the minutes of the EDC regular meeting dated November 18, 2020. We have approval of the EDC fiscal year ending 2021 revenue and expense report dated February 9, 2021, and approval of the HEDC quarterly investment report dated December 31st, 2020. Do you have any requests to remove any of these items from the consent agenda? Right, with no items being removed, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
A motion for approval of the consent agenda as written.
Okay, second?
I second.
All right, so we have a motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And all those against? So the ayes have it, so the motion passes for approval of the consent agenda. So now we'll move on to the items for individual consideration. These are items that sometimes require some discussion, and that's why they're considered individually. So we're going to start off with item number 6, the discussion of and action on adopting the HEDC fiscal year 2021 strategic work plan. Staff has put together, and for all of us here, we know about the work plan because we all worked on it together. Mary, do you have anything that you want to add to what's presented as far as the strategic work plan?
Sorry, thank you very much.
Sure.
No, I do not. I think this is everything that y'all basically brought to at the work session, and we just basically just kind of cleaned it up as is and summarized it, and I think it's a very strong plan.
Good. Yeah, I know for me personally, I read through it just compared to what the notes I took that day, and it looks like all items, at least that I took notes on, were incorporated into the work plan that were important to everybody on the board. So,
Great.
do we have a discussion from our virtual caller?
Any comments from you, Greg?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. All right. With that being said, we'll go ahead and in discussion, we'll go ahead and take an action on item number 6.
I move to take action on item 6, discussion and action adopting the HEDC fiscal year 2021 strategic work plan as written.
Okay, I guess what is your action?
That we move to the next thing on the house.
We're going to approve these individually, so we'll go ahead, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve as written, item 6.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those against? Okay, so we have, the ayes have it, so that item number 6 is approved as written. All right, we're going to move on to item number 7, approval of a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Lotus Economic Development Corporation approving amendment number 1 to the agreement for management services between the City of Lotus and EDC. So, Mary, you want to discuss a little, give us a little background on that?
Yes. amendment of the, agreement that we have managed services. We brought it to y'all, at the beginning of the year. What we're asking is to increase it by $6,000 to include, the increase for the public relations specialist to provide digital management services to the economic development. We talked about this in the strategic action plan. So what we'll do is this position will manage the website, social media accounts. It would allow the website to be updated in-house on a timely manner. And then the social media accounts will be utilized on a daily basis to support the current businesses that we have and to promote the Shop the Lotus brand. We feel like that if we just have one person basically giving out the same message all through the city and EDC, it would be more conducive, and that message will go out and will be able to support the local businesses and any other businesses coming in. Additional duties will be incorporated into the City of Lotus Public Relations Specialist job description, and the compensation will be additional duties, be integrated in the current salary and reimbursed through the economic development agreement.
Okay.
So they will be raised for her to be able to take on these activities.
Okay.
And so if you look on that, these, the actual agreement is on the attachment A, and that will be where the amendment is on section 3.
And does this need to go in front of city council or?
It will go in front
Okay.
of city council because they have to sign off on the agreement.
Okay. Good. My questions are always the easy ones. I guess, do we have it within the budget to afford to be able to do this?
Yes.
Okay. That's always the question I'm always gonna have whenever we spend, as long as we can budget for it, you know, and we can account for it, that's always the big thing, just to make sure we're always balanced.
We've had
Questions?
some cost savings in the actual marketing grant because we haven't had some of the events that we said we would help sponsor. And so that's where the funds will be able to go. So we don't have to do a full budget amendment to be able to support this extra money.
Okay, very good.
Mary.
So the funds are already there. Is that correctly?
Correct. We don't have to do a budget amendment. We actually have funds in another line item that will be an internal transfer into this line item.
Mary.
Okay.
Yes.
The 6,000 is not annual, that is, expires September 30th, is that correct?
Correct. And what we'll do is, it will be actually, if we do this increase, it will be something we ask every year. It will stay as 36,000. Right now, we ask annually 30,000. So if we do this, the board needs to know this is something we'll ask every year because we're gonna incorporate this as part of her salary to be able to continue these duties. We would be asking for 36,000 every year instead of the 30,000.
Okay.
The only question that I have is, obviously, salaries, length of time, how much time do you think that this person will be investing into, you know, this, like, how much do you have allocated for what this person will be investing in time into EDC marketing?
She probably will invest about 25 to 35% of her time into this. Because
Okay.
the website does take time to update and so forth. She's been investing probably at least 25 right now of her time. She has been helping to update the website. And she has been, when we did the grant program and so forth, she was the one that helped send, help with the email stuff, help Glenn in updating the list for businesses.
Okay.
And then she's gonna continue to do that, so she's gonna work really closely with development services. So anytime new person does a certificate of occupancy, make sure we have all their contact information so that we have an updated database. So one of the things that we realize is we don't always have an updated database, so we can't get that information out. If it's a text message or a phone call or an email, because not everybody checks their emails and not everybody. So we're trying to figure out what's the best way to contact some of our businesses out there.
Wonderful. That, you know, it certainly sounds like a day to a day and a half every week of work, so,
Yeah.
yeah, that just, okay. I'm good then, that was my only question.
Okay.
Is there any way to track the fees that's benefiting overall? I mean, interactions? I mean, the extra money is actually going to convert into dollars back or more clicks or however the conversion would be?
We can do it with analytics. We can see how many hits happen on the website. We can compare to the current website, what pages are hit and so forth, compared to the new website when it gets launched. We can do the analytics comparison. We can also do the
Okay. So I think we've had our discussion, so I'll go ahead and, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for approval of the resolution.
I move to approve item 7 and approve the resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Helotes EDC for Amendment 1 in the agreement of the management services between the City of Helotes and EDC.
Do I have a second?
Second the motion.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, all those against?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Moving on to item number 8, discussion of an action on sponsoring the Lotus area Chamber of Commerce gift card give back program. All right.
Okay, so you want me to go into a description of?
Yeah, I know we discussed this pretty in detail during our strategic work plan, but I think for anybody that's listening from the outside, it'd probably be good just for them to understand what the program is and how we'll be participating.
Absolutely. So the Helotes Area Chamber of Commerce has created a community initiative through a gift card give back. And what that really entails is on March 19th, it's going to be basically a one-day event or until their funds have been exhausted for this particular program. But any resident will be able to go online, select a local business that is also a chamber member, in a gift card in increments of $25, maximum of $100, and then the chamber is going to double their money. So if someone comes in and does spend $100, they're going to get a $200 gift card. The chamber will go to that business that was selected, purchase the gift card, and then mail or have the individual pick it up. They saw this program up in Bulverde in November of 2020. Bulverde was able to raise about $7,000 matching grant for the program, so that's $14,000 back into the business community. They exhausted funds in 37 minutes.
It's wonderful.
So yeah, the chamber reached out, figured out how they can make it work. So their big thing, obviously, is raising money for this pool. I did express an initial concern that chamber membership is not excluded for Helotes only businesses. And they said they have the ability that if the EDC does sponsor this initiative, they can have a separate breakdown of Helotes businesses, and then they can provide a report on how that money is spent.
Okay.
So they can assure us that only Helotes businesses will be eligible for our funding.
Okay.
If we so choose.
I know that was one of our concerns that we had during the strategic work plan, was just making sure that, although there may be people that are members of the chamber that aren't Lotus businesses, we wanted to make sure our funds were going towards that. I think our level of participation is $5,000, correct? Do we know how much total is going into the kitty with the chamber?
They currently have 2,200, and there's still about 4 other businesses that have said that they're going to step up. The funds haven't come in, so they're waiting on that. And then I think the board's capable, if some of those funds don't come in, to add to it.
Okay.
So I mean, the minimum goal was 7,000. They were hoping to get up to 10,000. It's the first time they're trying
Right.
this initiative.
Yes, I think the important thing, I love the flyer, I think it's awesome. I think the important thing though is gonna be getting the word out. March 19th is gonna be upon us before we know it. Yeah, so being able to get this out into the community, and I know we'll obviously have it on the website, but I don't know of any other, I'm gonna make sure, and everybody else has any connections, any organizations here in Lotus, so I'll make sure to put it on our Facebook page for our neighborhood. Yeah, but anything that we can do to try to get people involved in that, I think is gonna be good, because that March 19th will be here.
I'm assuming the chambers has been advertising this since.
They've been advertising the sponsorship side so far. Tomorrow is when they start advertising the event date itself, the gift card.
Okay.
So the flyers will go out to all participating businesses and there's 2. One a poster they can post in their storefront, and then one that each business can post on their Facebook page saying that they're participating.
Okay.
And then there's going to be a whole media campaign on the chamber side, digital and social, So, and one thing I thought was kind of encouraging, when Bulverde did it, they put this whole thing together in 2 weeks. So they said it didn't, once people got word they could double their money, they said it kind of went viral in that area.
Right, yeah.
I'm suspecting that's gonna happen here too.
I'm assuming they're gonna put a list of the businesses that are gonna be on there.
Yes. Yeah, and actually right now you can even log in, they've created a new directory category on the website that is gift card give back participants. So you can see them all there, but even the day of the event, there's gonna be a drop down in the gift card purchase where you can select the business.
Perfect.
Trying to make it as simple as possible.
Yeah,
What that
I
looks
know
like.
Saturday we're having our quasi market day, so that'll also be a nice time to advertise it and get the word around. All right, but this is perfect. I mean, this is good. We discussed it during the strategic work plan, and I'm glad to see it come on our agenda so soon after. So really appreciate that. All right. Do we have any further discussion about the gift card give back program?
The only question I have is, I agree with you, I think this is gonna be very popular, this makes good financial sense for the end user, you know, to double your money. Should we put in more than $5,000? That's my question. You know, we have other agenda meetings on here for discussion on how to stimulate our local businesses. Here's a simple way. You know, I'm just opening that up
Sure.
and seeing what people think.
My question though is, I think 5,000 is great. One of the questions I had though is, I didn't know what the list, you know what I mean, we do have the list.
Absolutely.
And so forth, but I'm hoping we can spend, you know what I mean, I'm hoping they spend at least 5,000 in Helotes, but because it's opened up outside of Helotes, I don't know if everybody's gonna just spend in Helotes, you know what I mean? And that's my fear, because I was like, okay, what if, and I hate to put that, and I was
No,
gonna
but
ask.
I can actually address
Yeah.
that part, because, yeah, how do you, if you have a budget of even $10,000, how can you direct it to businesses in and out of Helotes?
Right.
And they actually reached out to their webmaster, and they've got a workaround. They're gonna create two different transactions, one for businesses in Helotes and one out of Helotes. So the in Helotes will only have those businesses that have a fiscal address in Helotes. And then they can allocate whatever funding we
For
set
that.
aside for that category. So as soon as the funds are gone, it shuts down. Then people can only buy gift cards out of Lotus. So it kind of, I guess, an interesting workaround.
In this list of 38 businesses here, these are the businesses that are already signed up, right?
Correct, and there's 3 more, I think, that just signed up.
That's a fantastic list, by the way.
Lotus Country Club
Yeah.
just signed up. There's another medical office in Old Town that got a CVO that signed up. Yeah, I mean, when the businesses find out about it, they all want to participate.
How much did Bulverde?
They had 7,200
In half an hour.
and they did that in, like I said, 2 weeks.
Well, but they sold out in half an hour.
They did, 37 minutes.
Do you know how many businesses they have?
Oh, in the chamber?
How many businesses participated in there?
In Boulder.
They have 500 businesses overall, and I don't know, so Bulverde, honestly, they said they didn't have a way to effectively manage in their system. You were supposed to be a member of their chamber, you were supposed to be, had criteria. They ended up just letting any gift certificate go, whether it was for a Home Depot or Walmart or whatever. The chamber has a completely different system that allows for more accurate management, if that makes sense. The most money I think Bulverde had for an individual business was a restaurant, was $1,800. And she said that, that feeling of going in and writing an $1,800 check to a restaurant that's been impacted by COVID was kind of priceless.
So I'm trying to figure out, so let's say 1,500, you know what I mean? Is an average, or 1,000 is an average, gift certificate you spend. If you're saying Bulverde was 1,800 was the most that was spent on one business. So if we have 38 businesses, if we do an average of 1,000, so that's 3,800.
Yep.
Okay, so if we're giving 5,000, would we would more be, I don't know, you know what I mean, that's what I'm trying to.
Right, and
just-
at the same time, that was in less than an hour. You know,
Yeah.
what would they have sold in
Yeah,
8 hours?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's not 4,000, it's 40,000.
I'm sorry, wait, okay,
yeah.
1,000 for each business.
yeah, 40,000, yeah.
But yeah, that was 37 minutes they went through their
Right.
funding.
Yep.
And if it's not spent, I think Marion talked to Rachel with the chamber, and she said they would do a refund check.
Refund check,
You know,
yes.
right back to the.
Yeah,
EDC.
we would get it
So
back.
any-
Yeah, I mean,
any
there it
not
is,
spent-
geez.
I support this because, it's my understanding there has been a little bit of a struggle getting sponsorship. And so, really believe in EDC supporting this because of the struggle that they're getting. And again, if it doesn't sell, then it just goes back, the money goes back, so we've lost nothing, you know.
I'll tell you, COVID pandemic and all of that aside, I would support this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, these are all locally owned. We know people who own these businesses, you know, like, they're here with us.
So,
We're not naming names.
so in our marketing budget, we have 23,000,
Okay.
okay? Right now, as of right now.
Uh-huh.
And so,
With 6 of that having just been spent on,
no.
no, different
No.
line item. I was double checking. Okay.
So that's exactly what we have, we have 23,000.
Okay.
And is that what's, I know we're working on the fiscal, so we're already a quarter through the fiscal, right? So how much of our
We're at
marketing?
42% of our, we should be at 42%, so we only spent 20%, we've only spent 6,200
Yes.
currently. We budgeted 30,000,
Mhm.
we spent 6,200,
Mhm.
so we have a balance of 23,000.
We're at roughly 50% of the year still to go, a little bit over 50%.
Right.
So the math works out, that
It
says,
does.
yeah, we can put more money here just because we're actually behind in our marketing spending.
Right.
We do have another item
Right.
that's on here, is that the e-commerce that would come out of that,
Well, my thought was coming out of the event,
the bottom B event one?
yeah. since
Okay.
we've-
So
We're
we,
way
yeah,
behind on that one.
so
too.
we could, yeah, so, but we have about 23.
Mhm.
Could there be another point later in the year that we could do this thing to help stimulate the economy when it's generally slow?
I mean, I definitely think that's a possibility. The chamber's kicked around that if this went well, that they would look at doing it again, you know, in the fall, maybe do it twice a year. Part of it really just depends on funding, what they can get access to. I mean, they're willing to put money up as well, but they can't fund the whole thing.
Are they putting money up on this one?
They haven't yet, I would say that, but they are looking at it, yes.
I personally would like to propose to the board that we increase from 5,000 to 10,000. I think we have room in the budget. I think it's a very positive thing for our economy. And if nobody buys one gift card, which we know isn't gonna happen, we're gonna get that, because I know I'm gonna buy one. You know? So there's at least one. We're gonna get that 10,000 back. This is no risk, in my opinion. And it goes directly to,
Yes,
Our-
100%.
yeah. So that's what I would like to propose. I open that up for discussion.
Okay. Really, I mean, it's not a resolution or anything that we're writing, so I think
No,
this is all.
because it falls under marketing, and because y'all already, but marketing is a budget item, so it's not a special project.
Mhm.
So the only reason, and technically, Glenn and I could have, I could have said, we're gonna do this project, but I always like to bring things to the board. I don't like to just
And we
say we're gonna
appreciate
do all
that.
these projects,
Mhm.
because I feel like it should be a board decision on certain projects that we do, or certain things, not projects, but certain things we support, in marketing. And so that's why, so yeah, this is why, you know what I mean, because we could have just said 5,000, but the board's here saying, no, it should be a $10,000, and so, yeah, definitely. It's just an action on what direction you want us to go in that line item.
So yeah, you can just make a motion.
So I'd like to make a motion to, on, which one are we on?
8.
8.
You know, on number 8.
Item 8, discussion and action sponsoring the Lotus Chamber of Commerce gift card give back program with the amendment of increasing the EDC contribution from $5,000 to $10,000.
All right.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, all those against say nay. Motion passes. Okay, we're moving on to number 9, discussion of an action on contracting with 360 Zone to provide Google 360 virtual tours to businesses located within the city of Lotus. So if we can have staff give us some background on that.
Absolutely. In several of, I guess our board members may not be aware, we've done this program several times since I've been here. I believe it's been very successful personally, and I've also talked to several of the business owners that have received the service. You know, the most recent, actually, just even a few weeks ago, Lotus Tactical. He said it's the single best thing he thinks that EDC has ever done to support local businesses up until now, you know. Because it literally put him on the map. And now people that search can find his gun shop, you know. And I think that's kind of the case with all these businesses, small businesses in particular. You know, with Google, they're not going to ever say it directly, even their representative. But the more Google products you use, the higher you rank. And especially if you're on like the Street View and it's uploading photos and all that kind of stuff, you're going to rank higher than anyone else in the area. So it ties into their search and everything. To date, we've done 65 businesses in Helotes. We're getting new businesses still all the time, honestly. And so I've already identified 17 that have come into Helotes since our last program. And I think we already have another 2 businesses that we could add to that. So we're up to 19 businesses that could be eligible. I'm trying to think, we started this in 2014. Since 2014, I've only had one business say no. And usually, John Alvarez with 360 Zone, me and him work really well together. He actually helps go pound the pavement and go business to business on all the ones that we know that haven't received the service to make sure they've got the information. It's a simple application process, contract that they sign with the EDC and then with Google that gives us the permission to have the photos at the end, because he does take 10 to 20 still shots of the business, their signage. If it's food, he'll take pictures of food and everything to post. And we add that into Shop Lotus. So that's one benefit that the EDC receives. And then obviously the business not only gets their Google listing boosted, but then they have professional photos as well for advertising. And I'm not sure if you guys have been to Shop Lotus and seen the 360 tours. We can actually embed those into our website, and each business can do the same thing. So you can walk around the whole business.
Awesome. Good. All right, so open it up for discussion. Questions?
So do they have to buy this in order to get it?
Can you say that again? The first part broke up. Greg, can you repeat that?
Do they have to apply? Because I mean, I'm reading through the list of the businesses here, and like O'Reilly's Auto Parts, I can't park me a fathom them needing something like this. Because their inventory is constantly changing.
Yeah. So they apply to the EDC to receive the incentive or benefit, but you're right on merchandising and stuff does change, and that's probably the one downside to the program, and that's one reason why John likes to go outside of a holiday. He doesn't want to go at Christmas time and do the inside of the business with Christmas decorations up. Same thing on the outside, because this connects with Street View, so he doesn't go during the winter when all the trees are dead and there's no leaves, it just doesn't look as appealing. So, I mean, he really takes a lot of things into consideration. Businesses have the ability later on to revise their street view. This program historically has just been, we provide their first one. But that can be up for discussion.
Yeah, and I know it's all dependent upon the size of the business, but do you know like what an average cost would be per business?
So, again, it comes down in general to the size. We had more small businesses here in Helotes, so the 250 happens most frequently, or the medium. You know, the only business that's even fallen in to the very large Gardens at Old Town and Flores Country Store.
Okay.
I would assume something like O'Reilly's.
Yeah, so probably if we just really shot into the middle of the range there from 250 to 800, you know, if you said $500 at 8,000, that's going to give us 16 businesses of the 19 that you have listed there. So, yeah, I think that it covered most of them. You know, some of them obviously are going to be a little bit smaller, some will be a little bit bigger. I don't know if we're going to have any that or not. I don't know if this list if he was going to hit the large business side or the very large business side. Most of these are probably pretty small.
I agree.
So we can almost cover the whole list with the, and this is just, we're just putting a budget in. We only spend it as we need it.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
As they apply.
yeah, and we
Okay.
pay after the service is performed.
Okay.
Even, so.
I mean, for me, I'm a big advocate, and like we had talked about at our workshop, I'm trying to find ways that we can invest in our businesses to help them market rather than just, you know, giving away. I think this is a great thing. I think if we're going through the algorithm that we developed last year, this is falling under $10,000. I think that this is great. There's no reason to stop this from proceeding. I think we definitely need to proceed.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, so I'll go ahead and close the discussion part of it, so we'll entertain a motion.
A motion to approve the action on contracting with 360 Zone to provide Google 360 virtual tours to businesses located within the city of Lotus.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 And all those opposed? All right, so motion passes. Very good. All right, so we're going to move on to item number 10, discussion of an action on a resolution by the Board of Directors postponing the construction of a spray park / splash pad at the Lotus Fitness and Disc Golf Course and sidewalks along Rivers Road, and reallocating those funds toward emergency relief efforts to support the Lotus business community. So since this is not actually presented by staff, then we'll John and Melody then actually kind of give the background on it. Okay, perfect.
I'm happy to, and thank you for hearing me out on this resolution. I know that this is not a topic to be taken lightly. And if anyone noticed in the Google Calendar invite, Glenn had this meeting scheduled until 10 p.m. Not going to go that long, Glenn. but I do want to say I know that this topic of discussion has been talked about a great deal since I proposed and Melody supported. I am here, one of the reasons I am here is because I worked with the mayor, and many years ago I was at a city council meeting with the Scouts, and one of the council members had a very strong statement against one of the decisions that the mayor made, and his response actually was interesting, and he said, I am here to present topics that present discussion. And we definitely did that today. And that's what I'm trying to do. I just want to discuss and see what people think. So my resolution is to take and I'm going to ballpark and say $500,000 that we have set aside for a splash pad and for a sidewalk along Riggs Road. And reallocate those funds to our local businesses. It is hard for me to see us spend that money during a pandemic, whenever whenever the local economy is struggling on an individual basis. The larger economy around us is actually doing very well. We all know that, but individuals are what I'm struggling with, and to see them close doors. We all know of businesses that have closed doors. We've seen the numbers. We've seen social media posts of local business owners asking for help from the public. And I feel like I am in a position to at least propose discussion to try and help that. So the things that I have written here, I completely do not expect the board to approve verbatim. I actually want to hear changes. I want to hear what folks have as ideas. This is me just sort of, raising the topic. So what is it that we as the EDC want to do for Helotes? And do we want to build a splash pad and a sidewalk? I support that. Do we want to try and curb that and set it aside? I will say, I just, as everybody's voting and learning, if we reallocate these funds, there is the potential, correct me if I'm wrong here, Miriam, that we would have to, I use the phrase start over, but it's not completely starting over. Whenever things get back to whatever they're going to get to, we may need to revote on both of those projects.
So you don't have, you just vote on the reallocation of the funds.
Okay.
So the project.
That's what your email was saying. I was trying to put all that together. That's why I asked you to correct me.
So what I wanted to get clarification from, and I because I work in the world of city budget, and so I had to learn this, and so in a project, what we did is when we went to a public hearing, the board approved the projects, then came back later on and allocated funds for those projects.
Right.
So we had to do 2 public hearings and 2 readings for the projects. So that was one action. The second action was allocating funds for those projects. So those are 2 separate actions, actually, in the EDC world.
Gotcha.
So what you're doing now is that you're saying, okay, those projects can still exist. We're just taking those funds, reallocating somewhere else. So by EDC regulations, those projects can exist for another 5 years, up to whatever. And come back and say, okay, next year things are back to normal, everything's back. We've done actually very well in revenue.
Yep.
Now we want to reallocate that money back. We actually have another $500,000 in the back in the fund revenue balance, so we're going to put it back and reallocate that. Or we're going to just allocate the splash pad for right now, and then next year we're going to reallocate for the sidewalk. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So y'all can do that and not have to do another public hearing for that, because you're quote unquote putting that aside. You have not eliminated those projects or anything else. You're just reallocating funds, and y'all have the right to do so.
So my proposal is kind of multifold. The first step is, do we think we need to reallocate those funds first and foremost, and put those projects on hold indefinitely, because who knows whenever we're going to get back to whatever we're going to get back to. So the second question is, what do we do with those reallocated funds? Do we try and form another grant program? Do you think that our local businesses need another grant program? If so, how would we execute that? We had some trouble kind of quote unquote giving that money away. We had $450,000 on the last round, and it kind of struggled a little bit in finding businesses that were eligible. Is that because those businesses weren't struggling as much as what people thought, or was that because our criteria was too stringent and we eliminated too many folks? So there's a lot happening here. Let's not go until 10 o'clock tonight.
I do want to point out, whatever project y'all decide on, that does need a public hearing.
Yes.
So you do whatever you decide on. We'll have to advertise like we did prior. It will have to be a public hearing, and then so we do 2 readings here, and then we do a public hearing and 2 readings at council. So we know that, and then we have to wait 60 days to spend those funds. So know that whatever project, there is a time frame, just like we had to with the grant program.
So we can spend those, like, if we have a grant, if we decide that we're going to do another grant program here tonight, just purely hypothetical, we can spend those 60 days getting applications, organizing, advertising and things, but we cannot give money for
Right,
60
can't
days.
give money.
Right, but we can do all the legwork, so on day 61, we can start writing checks. Okay,
Exactly.
yep, wonderful. Tear it apart, guys.
I have to say, the reason,
Can these projects be separated?
excuse me?
Did you say can the
Can the
project?
projects be separated?
Okay.
Like the splash pad separated from the sidewalk to reallocate the splash pad funds to go towards small business grants and keep the sidewalk portion of it or something like that?
Absolutely,
Yes.
it's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just as memory for me, how much did we allocate to the splash pad and how much did we allocate to the sidewalk?
375, I believe, for the splash pad and 125, was it for the
Because
sidewalk?
we were 475 total,
Maybe it was
Okay.
3. Well, I know it was 125 for the
so,
sidewalks.
yeah, so
So
then,
then it was 350 for the splash pads.
Okay.
and we didn't actually, I mean, we didn't have bids.
Yeah, that was just an
Just
allocation, that was an
estimate.
estimate,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, my next question is, has any work at all been done? on
No, we
this?
have not gone out for bid yet. or
That's why I lumped
Nice.
those two together, because aside from us approving the project, approving the funding, nothing else has happened.
Right.
So that's kind of why I put those were two big projects that I just sort of put together into that funding.
And a lot of that has to do with COVID being out and so on.
Yes, yeah.
You were gonna say something,
We
Melanie.
had a splash pad right now that we couldn't use because people couldn't get together on it, you know?
Right.
Yeah, so-
Exactly, that's what my thinking was on this. We don't know how long this is truly gonna stay around, and creating something where, you know, a bunch of small children are interacting in close proximity might not be an ideal time.
Right.
I'd like to just say, the reason why I really wanted to help support this proposal was when I first saw this as a postponement. That was really key to me.
Mhm.
I want to, for the record, I do agree, I do like the splash pad and the sidewalk, so my signature on here did not infer that I'm not in favor of that at all. One of the things I liked to hear was that at the current rate that we're getting our sales is that we could replenish this money, is my understanding, as early as 6 months, worst case scenario, a year and a half. And I think that's great. So it's not like this money is just, you know, never, right. And I like the idea that, okay, if we can't give the money away, then nothing's lost here. And it shows the public our goodwill in trying to help the small businesses. That's why I like it so much. We haven't lost anything at this. This hasn't cost us, unless I'm mistaken. Has this cost us anything?
Well,
to do this?
the only cost that will incur is we will have a third party, which is BCL. There is a cost to that, and that's usually between 20 to 25,000. So there is a cost. We do contract with a third party to help us monitor and review the applications. We just don't have the staff to do it. You know what I mean? We don't have the expertise to also do it. I don't feel that. So I would recommend, as the director, to have a third party to actually, like we did with the grants, it did help us. Because there are, things that I do recommend that you do put a criteria together, you do put certain things, and it does help us evaluate that.
And repeat, how much is it?
It was 25,000, wasn't it?
Yeah, to administer 450,000. Obviously, I think we can reach out to
Yeah.
PCL and probably get a sliding scale, so to speak. So if they're only processing 200,000 or less, you know, it shouldn't be the same as if they do.
Right, I
400,000.
think when it was 350, they were looking at 20,000, so I don't know if it's, I don't remember what the range was, I don't remember if it was from 0 to 350, you know, the same price, or if it was less than that, it would be less.
I know when we did the loan side of it, they were trying to make somewhere between 6 to 8%, like a traditional interest rate. So I'm not sure what the calculation on the grant was.
Well, before we even jump into that, my first question for the board is, do you agree or disagree that we should postpone one or both of these projects currently?
Agreed.
Yeah, I don't know, like, it's weird because I don't get a vote on anything, but, you know, I do feel strongly that our job is to support businesses.
Yeah.
And we've got the bill, it is kind of sad that we've got this money sitting out there, and you know, it's close to $500,000. It's a lot of money, that's now been there for a long time, that it would be nice to be able to get that infused into the businesses. The only thing I don't know, like the criteria that you have here, John, Melanie, what, is this based, is it kind of like the basis of it, what was the original grant program, but there's some edits to it?
Well, let me just pause there for 1 second, because I'm not even that far yet. I go very systematically and check boxes, you know, so for me, the very first question is, you know, do we proceed with the projects? And it sounds like everybody's saying we're good postponing them. So the next question that I have then is, you know, should we reallocate those funds toward a grant program? And then my next follow-up after that is, if we decide we want to do a grant program, what would it look like?
Right.
So the criteria that I have there are things that we had in the original, things that I did on research, things that I picked up from our workshop and talking to Glenn, and kind of throwing some ideas out there. Like one of the big things that Glenn and I had talked about after the workshop was Cornyball's in trouble.
Yep.
If Cornyball gets closed again, due to COVID, we might not have Cornyball. That would be atrocious for our town, and they're a nonprofit. So we need to include nonprofits there because we need Cornyball. You know, that's a staple of our community. I mean, the town's name is Corn, for heaven's sakes. It's so catchy. We can't let that go. So that's why I have the nonprofits there, things of that nature.
Okay.
So,
I think Greg wanted.
Greg, you wanna add something? Hey Greg, is there anything you would like to add?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so
One.
this is more just a question, Margaret, I guess, as far as procedure goes. Like, do we need, so let's say we're all in agreement, yes, we want to reallocate, and we decide how much we want to reallocate. We do that tonight. Do we need to adopt also the format or the actual?
So what we need, the main motion will be that you want to reallocate these funds
Okay.
to whatever program. If it's a grants program, if it's a loan program, whatever you decide the program, the project to be, okay? So
Okay.
that's your basically your action. Then we're gonna need direction, because then Glenn and I have a lot of work to do.
Right. Yeah.
Because then we're gonna need action to say, okay, from there, what do you wanna develop? And so to help us out, we're gonna need, okay, we want
That one.
a
Yeah.
grant program for this amount of money, and then we need to talk about, you know, I mean, it can be decided here, it can be decided at the next meeting. We do need to have a next meeting on the 17th, okay? Because we need to do public hearings, we need to find out, we need to look at dates, because if we put it in the paper, we can't have a public meeting, or it's best to wait so many days after it's publicized to have your first public hearing, because you have to give the public chance to be able to look at, read it, and then be able to attend.
And respond.
Right, response to it. So we need to advertise this week so that we're giving them a minimum of 10 days. Usually 15 days is comfortable, but you have to at least give them 10 days, okay? So that gives us, so that we can, have our meeting on the 17th, okay? And then we can always, what we can do is get y'all's ideas now and then come back on the 17th and have y'all approve the program with the criteria then, you know what I mean? That's when we come back and say, this from what the information y'all gave us at this meeting, here is the criteria, here's where we fine tuned it, and then you can fine tune it some more, but at least we have basically the program set, because at that point, the next step is we're gonna take it to council.
Right.
And they're going, you know, it should be completely done for us to be able to present to council and say, this is it, this is what it's gonna look like, this is the criteria, this is what we're expecting, blah, 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 for their public hearing and their decision. Because they're gonna be deciding on two things, also the reallocation of the funds, but also at the same time, so there's not a delay, the approval of the program with the criteria.
Okay. The only thing I fear in it, thing I worry about, it does need to have council approval, since we kind of gave them, not want to say gave them, but we authorized them to spend the money. We could say, yeah, we're approving the reallocation, we put the time in, put y'all through a lot of work, to do it, and then it could, all that could be put together and go to council, and it could fail.
Good fair.
And then, you know, I know it's one of those things, like, no way this could happen, but what dates would we be looking at it going to council?
It would go to council on the 17th, it would go to council on the 25th.
Okay, of April.
No, of March.
March, okay.
I mean, this is fast tracking.
It is,
yeah.
For this to occur, for it to be logically to occur, it'd be on the 25th. Funding wouldn't be able to, I mean, we could start accepting stuff, but funding, we wouldn't be able to give anyone in 60 days from when we publish or from the public hearing.
Publish, actually.
Publish, so we publish on the 5th, because I don't, either the 4th, let's say the 5th, okay?
Right.
So we wouldn't be able to give funds out till May 4th, May 5th, somewhere around
Okay.
there. So that would be the first time we can give funds out.
Okay.
So y'all need to also consider that on the grant thing, is it, because that was something we struggled with too. Was that too late? Was that too, you know what I mean? Masks are going on the 10th. They're Governor Abbott, not requiring masks now. There's a lot of businesses we've had, Glenn and I just talked about this, businesses are very torn about
Right.
the safety of their employees, about safety of their patrons.
Yeah.
Do we require it? Do we not? Some businesses are saying, I am. Some businesses say, oh, we're afraid to, because then patrons are gonna come in, but then what if my employees get sick? You know what I mean? So they're very torn. They don't know which direction to go. They've even called us and say, getting a poll on, and we've had businesses that say, we're gonna do it. We're gonna require masks. We might be at 100%. Some businesses said, we're not, we're just gonna do 50%, or we're gonna just do 75%, because we don't feel that not everybody's got vaccines, or not everybody's
Right,
whatever.
right.
And
It's
we
gonna be a
don't
while.
feel safe. Yeah, it's gonna be a while. So they've already taken that stance. So, and I'm just telling y'all that just because I think y'all should have what we've heard out there in the business, you know, and that's just with the orders coming out, you know, yesterday.
Yeah.
Miriam, I think with what you're saying, to me supports that we
Yeah.
still need grants, because the governor opens it up, does not mean it's going to return
Yeah.
immediately. There is still gonna be fear, and it's gonna take months and months. So I still believe that this grant is very much needed.
Yeah, and like John, you were asking, okay, what do you, and these are the questions I challenged Glenn when we sat down and did it, you know what I mean? I said, convince me why we need the grant, you know, because we had a lot of struggle getting people to apply, we really, really did. Some because they didn't qualify, some because they were like, I don't need it, some, thought they were hurting more than they were, because they didn't, you know, there were just many factors. We think, as we talked about it, even with lower criteria, we think maybe 15 to 20 people will qualify.
And that was the last thing I want to mention on the financial part of this, just above our signatures. It does say up to 475,000. I don't know that
Yeah.
we need 475,000, honestly, but it does say up to your point, you know. And a lot of our businesses are still thriving, some are still struggling. You know, we gave out, you know, between 5,000 and 10,000 on the last round.
We gave 20,000
Up to
to
20.
businesses.
I mean, that one-time infusion is helpful, I'm sure, but it'll have been nearly a year, you know, since, if we reallocated May, we reallocated last July. So I still think we need to entertain it. And if this idea ends up costing the EDC 25,000 in administrative fees to try and do it, tragically, while that sucks, just to be honest, I think it's worth it to make sure that our businesses are as solvent as they can be. And if they do need help, let's help them. But that's my idea, and with all of that, I'm done. I just want to support our businesses, I want to help them thrive. I actually don't want to give businesses a check because that's a Band-Aid. I would really like to try and find ways to invest in businesses like the gift card program, for example, or something along those lines, that actually increases and brings more people in and makes them more sustainable. I would prefer to spend our money and invest in those avenues. And at the workshop, we talked about, web services and website development and more of an online presence and all of those little things that we could go on and we won't. But that's ultimately what I like to do. This is just another Band-Aid. And I'm saying, I think we need a Band-Aid. I'm asking the board what you'll think.
Okay.
I support, yeah, reallocating the
Another
funds.
word.
I support reallocating the funds to the grant, so, yes.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement about the reallocation. The amount, though, I know Greg, you had some good questions there. I mean, do we want to mix both programs at this point? I just don't know, it's kind of weird because the programs that the money's allocated for are more kind of the public welfare type projects as far as sidewalks and splash pads. And now we're talking about on the business side. And so, yeah, we support the business side, but we are going to take away from these programs. And I don't know if there's been expectations out there. If anybody said, man, I can't wait for there to be a sidewalk on Ridge Road because I almost get run over every time, I don't walk, so that's not me, but somebody might say it. So I just want to make sure there's not anybody that's, and obviously we can't rotate around one whenever we've got many that are on the other side. So have we got any feedback from anybody about excitement about any of these upcoming projects? I mean, you guys all know.
In this year, I don't think either way, just because everybody's been, like you said, with the COVID and the ice storm, anything else.
Yeah.
With a sidewalk, definitely. I mean, O'Connor, when they were doing track and stuff, they use it. People walk. They even walk to go to Old Town. I'm going to tell you right now, they do. They use that area. Orias is now down there. You know what I mean? They walk to. People walk and try. We try to do as much connectivity and walk
Right.
a little.
That's what I was just going to say. Like, really, right now, for us to be able to walk to Old Town, we would have to walk on the street. So,
Exactly.
one of the things I've always seen as Helotes is it's kind of fragmented a little bit. I'd like to try and find a way to join that. And the sidewalk helps do that,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, yeah, I support both of these projects. I'm just not sure of the timing. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's anything, because even the sidewalk project, a lot of people think, well, it's just easy, right? You go pour a slab next to the existing pavement and you're done, right? And it's not that easy.
And then like we talked about the splash pad, yeah, eventually when we can use a splash pad, I think people in Lotus and outside would definitely.
Absolutely.
And would bring people in here and stop at Burger King or stop at the Shell or stop at any of these restaurants to pick up food before they go. Yeah, would it bring people into Lotus and people in Lotus? Yes, it would.
Right.
It would. But like we said,
Is the timing right?
Right.
That's the question.
But-
Not the project. I'm not in question of the project. Solely the timing.
Are great projects, you know what I mean? I've always said that in here, I've never been, and I think that's what council and I think the previous board felt that way. I think that the residents feel that way. I even think the businesses feel that way. The grant, I'm iffy about, I'm gonna tell you right now, even as the director, I'm not saying I don't wanna support businesses, I really don't. We need to write this grant correctly, okay? I'm like you, John, I don't wanna give a Band-Aid. I don't wanna give to businesses that we already gave and might still be struggling because maybe, I don't know, maybe it wasn't appropriated properly or so forth.
Yeah.
But I also know the business he and I talked about because the other grant was part of the CARES program. So one of the criteria that we had and we couldn't control was if they got funding from a different CARES.
Right.
And I understand if you got funding that equaled ours, yeah, you did. But some people got less. So we know of one that only got 5,000. If they knew, but they got it
Right.
before ours. If they knew that ours was coming out,
Right.
they would have denied it and said,
Because here's 20, yeah,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
So if we write this, then to me, then that person, that would be one of the questions. Did you get it? Okay. Did you get other funding, like from the lift fund? Yes. How much? Because then if, let's say this grant is 20,000 per, again,
Sure.
but then they only qualify now for 15. Just so that the funding can go a little further, you know what I mean, for other people. But if you got more than 20 from a lift fund or from another funding, then, you know what I mean, then maybe you don't qualify for this. Just so that the people, because we have also had a lot of people that said, I might qualify, but I think someone else needs it more than me.
Yeah, yeah,
And
there was a lot of altruism,
right,
for
and
sure.
those are the people that I want to apply to say, no, okay, you know what, those other people already applied and they
Yep.
got it, so you know what, we need you to apply now.
Definitely.
And I want those people to come back. I don't want the people that we, I mean, I'm not, and I don't wanna sound wrong, it's not that I don't want them to, but
You're trying to help others.
yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I'll even add a layer on top of that, and I would like to see those businesses that are succeeding, and if we are able to help them in some way to be able to expand and hire on more employees, you know, and you know, I always use the example of Shots. Shots is doing very well. It seems like from the surface, if there was something that we could do to help them, that they could, you know, acquire another machine or something. I have no idea, but that's a whole different
That's a
thing.
whole different-
And I'm not
Yeah,
proposing that, but
yeah.
I would love to try and find a way to even do
We
that.
talked about that
Yep.
maybe not now, but as another thing.
Yes.
There are, BCL does a revolving loan thing or
Okay.
something like that. That would be great that as we kind of get out of this, maybe that's what we put aside for something else as an extending program.
As a
So,
totally separate thing
right,
from this,
as-
absolutely.
But that would, I'm totally
Yeah.
for that. But yeah, this criteria has to be, supporting those that didn't,
Right, and a loss of revenue.
but didn't take the opportunity because they felt like someone else was hurting more.
Yeah.
That didn't take that opportunity because they got only 5,000 or 2,000 from them, because I don't know how Lyft funded their criteria or something, because some people got a whole bunch and some people only got a little.
Yeah.
I have no idea. We gave the exact same amount on ours, but I have no idea. But I feel like, yeah, if I was that business, I would've been like,
Yeah, a little frustrated.
yeah, I'm
Definitely.
very frustrated.
Very
So I get that. We talked about some of the things that we looked at this and had some ideas on the criteria on, where we saw, that could have been better approved, because we weren't able to set up that criteria. We were given a lot of that from the county. So we thought, okay, if we expanded this, or we changed this, or we, you know, I don't think what we required in verification was a lot. We did in the loans, but on the grant we did. It was very simple verification.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot of paperwork. It was all online, and it was very easy when it came to the grant part. But I think some of the criteria we can work on allowing more people to qualify for. That's just my 2 cents.
That's good feedback. My only idea, again, I'm just trying to think of how to balance all the different sides of this. Here's just an idea, is maybe we leave some allocation on the, and I don't know if, I think Splash Pad, we're all kind of a little worried on it right now just because of the social distancing aspect, but maybe the sidewalk alone, maybe leave some money in there for probably just the design side and permitting, because, and dealing with that, just so there's something moving forward over on that side, and we're not having to spend a lot of money, because that side of it's cheap compared to the construction side.
Sure.
And that way, if there's anybody that's really concerned about it, it could be, we've got that project, it's gears are moving on it, you know, but that design and permitting side of it takes a long time.
There's actually already a design, we already have a design on
Oh.
it. It's ready for
For
bidding.
construction? Oh, wow, oh, okay, never mind that then.
But-
Well, then we'll just tell everybody that we did that.
It's a good thought. There you go.
Like, hey, look what we did already.
Right now.
That's good to know. Well, then that actually eases a lot of my angst on it, in that the fact that when the allocation, or when the money can be put back, which we're talking about in a 6 month to 1 year time frame, which is probably at the point that everybody's gonna start feeling a little bit better about things, we can immediately move into bidding and construction. So that actually makes me feel a lot better about it, just because, if that part hadn't been done, you know, that's a 6 month process in
Yeah,
itself,
yeah.
so. So yeah, knowing that we can go straight to construction, I think will make everybody feel better. And that, I think, is just what needs to be conveyed. If anybody has concerns about it, just say, these projects are real, they're designed. We're waiting for the proper time for construction.
The splash pad hasn't, that's why it would be an RFP, it's a whole different, animal than the.
Sidewalk.
The sidewalk.
Okay.
But the sidewalk was because it was part of something else at one point.
Yeah, okay, I get you.
At the same time, we could agree just to leave the sidewalk as is and take the splash, as an example, we
Right.
take the splash pad, reallocate the splash pad funds for the moment until we don't have to distance, so, and it can be utilized appropriately.
What happens, like, I know we have, what do we have in there for the sidewalk, 125? If that doesn't, get all spent, what happens to that money? Does it go back to the?
It goes back to the.
Okay, into the fund, okay. Okay,
That's good.
yeah. Good to know.
Good and valid.
Now that I understand that there would be some cost of a third party, I'm wondering, can we identify some businesses, do an outreach to find out who really, would be interested in a grant before we even commit to getting that far?
We could, we could, it would delay some of this. We could and come back to you on the 17th, but then that means that, do you want us to delay the announcement for the project? No. You know what I mean?
No.
And the only thing that I think there would be, we have a chicken and egg problem
Yes.
because we need to figure out what our criteria are for businesses to be able to answer that.
Before we go out.
Right.
Right,
Yes.
and ask.
As
Well,
opposed to
and
Glenn
that
just
would-
calling people and say, do you need money? Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Wait, you gonna give me some? Maybe.
No,
I know,
you've got
I'm
to know
being
absolutely, you've got to know what the criteria is, but I'm just saying, see if we can identify these businesses before we contract with a third party. Is there a way to do that? That's what.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You see what
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
saying? Is there a way?
Like, can we make all of our rules before we go to BCX?
We absolutely can make all of our.
Yeah, we can make all the criteria and everything else prior to going to PCO without doing, yeah.
BCL, sorry, I thought it was.
We could
Probably
definitely
BCS.
set the criteria,
So
and
we-
do all that, because we have to, before we even go to BCO, we have to actually come back and bring you all the contract
Mhm.
to negotiate the BCO contract with y'all.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we wouldn't do that until after council.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So theoretically, to Melody's point, we could decide to fund this, decide how much, decide on all the rules, decide on everything. We can do the public hearings, council can approve, all of that can go through, and maybe nobody applies. I doubt that'll happen, but,
Right.
and then we didn't really lose anything. That's where we're going.
That's where I'm going with
Oh,
that, is
yeah,
that
right?
they wouldn't charge, they don't charge us until they actually do the work anyway.
Well, but we couldn't put it out there for them to apply until we have a contract with BCO.
But we would at least know the criteria and could do some outreach.
Yes,
and
we could do
put
some
some feelers
outreach.
out.
I've already developed,
See if there's
Andrea.
still interest out there.
Yeah, we're still here. Nothing does.
Yeah.
Me and Andrea have actually worked to create a questionnaire for the businesses.
Okay.
Both, ask them what kind of services, they need and are looking for. And it's geared towards not only kind of like the grant program, but also, in e-commerce, that's a later agenda item and stuff. Or if they have other ideas that they've seen, that we can help them with.
Yeah.
So we actually had that ready to go. Part of it, we were waiting on this meeting, to see what kind of direction we're given.
Okay.
Um,
And if I remember right, Glenn, wasn't their contract structured in the format that they kind of had like a base fee, and then it depended upon how many applicants that they had, or was it just based on the money?
It was just based on the
Based on
So if we got 0 applicants, they would still charge us. It's just we have a contract with them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
There
So-
was a difference in funding. Whenever we had it as a loan, they were charging us a percentage rate, and it was a flat fee with the grant.
Okay.
No, probably not, but
Yeah,
they
there
would
would
have
have been
charged
a
us
base
on
fee
the, yeah,
for the work to create
to
the
create the
application process.
application
and
and
Right.
so forth.
Yeah. But we can have all those I mean, to me, I don't think we should focus on that. I think we can bring that back at the next meeting,
Okay.
those details.
Yeah, we can let you know what the
Exactly.
base fee is, and then, but I think that they would say after, like, I don't know if they do like 5 applicants or 10, I mean, I have no idea, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I think there's at least a base fee to set up the app, because everything's online and
Right.
everything's set up that way. Then they'll say, okay, and then if so many applicants, then, it's this much.
Right. Well, I do know, looking at just the preliminary criteria that John has here, that there are definitely some businesses that were excluded in the first one, just because of some of the limits that, on the revenue side, that I know that they are struggling as well. So I do like the fact that we're opening up, and that may in itself create new applicants and new users of the grant, just because now they're not disqualified. So I think that's all good. So I think the criteria is very close to what we want. Really, tonight, what we need to decide is just, do we want to proceed with reallocation of all or part or none of the funds?
Yes, sir.
And that's really where we're at. And I think we got everybody's feeling on it done. And yeah, so I mean, does anybody have any idea of what they feel like as far as the reallocation goes from the amount? It's easier to do all, just from a paperwork standpoint and kind of tracking of the projects for sure. I just don't know enough about where council is at. If there's one that's more important than anybody up there, I don't know if somebody's gonna care whether it's partial or
Yeah,
all
there
of
is,
it,
yeah.
So
I'm sure there is.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that we're gonna have to make our recommendation and just see where council goes with it. And they may came back and now, that's a good question, is could council, if we say we wanna do a reallocation of all the funds, could they disapprove, but with an approval of partial? Or is it just like, no, we don't approve your recommendation, and that's it?
I think they can come up with a recommendation to come with you, they can, you know what I mean, they can say, they can come back and say, we disapprove your thing, but here's a recommendation and
Okay.
y'all.
A compromise of some sort.
Yeah. Then it would just come to
Yeah, you have to come back and.
approve it, and then we'd have to go back and get it approved. It's just gonna add time to the process.
Yeah, because you as a board have to decide if you agree with what council's recommendation is.
Okay.
I have another question.
Seems to me like the thing for us to do right now is to keep the sidewalk project, so that year's still rolling, and then allocate the splash pad to the grant program.
It's a solid idea.
Yeah.
Billy?
So if the thought is that we could replenish $500,000 in 6 months, it wouldn't take very long to replenish 125 for a sidewalk.
Correct.
So as we gain that 125, how does that work to where we could immediately put those funds aside for a sidewalk in, say, 2 months? Was that feasible?
Well, we bring in about $150K a month, yes?
Right.
Give or take.
The problem is
Correct,
that
correct.
you can't do that until the end of the year,
Oh,
okay? Because you're doing revenues and expenses, so that money doesn't true up till the end of the year. So you don't really know what you're replenishing until the end of the year, because you have to figure out what all your revenues and what all your expenses is, and then whatever you're left with goes back into your revenue.
Okay.
that helps.
So-
Thank you.
So let's say, I know we have a bunch of what ifs, and I appreciate
Nice
you.
to put your
Lot
Yeah.
of hypotheticals.
Yeah, so you chase rabbits all day long on this one.
That's why it says 10 o'clock.
Okay, so let's say that we reallocate all the funds, right? And we go through the program, and we help out a lot of good businesses, but we just happen to have 125,000 that doesn't get used. And that goes back into us, right? Can that immediately be applied to the sidewalk project?
And if they have 250,
Yeah.
whatever you
Okay.
have left, you can reallocate, because it goes back into your
Our-
fund.
We'll just bring it right to the next EDC meeting,
and
Yeah.
say, this is where it goes to. Because what happens is you have a
Okay.
pot of money and you decide where you want to reserve it.
Okay.
It's just like a bank account. You decide, okay, this is where I'm gonna put in this savings and you're not gonna touch it. This one is unreserved. You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what do we want to do?
So this last funding, we ended up spending $380,000,
Okay.
is what we spent, FYI.
380, and there could be a feeling that we grabbed most of everybody already, but there could also be, we missed some because of criteria, and there may have been some that passed just because they felt like, oh, it's not my turn yet, that they may be in a different mindset.
Yeah,
And to
because,
clarify, we spent 380 and the city
no,
council
380 altogether.
total, okay, okay.
Because it was 450, it was 300 from EDC and 150 from the city.
Yeah,
But out of that total, 380.
gotcha.
It's at 20,000 a piece, that was what, 19 businesses?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, you just happen to have 38 on that list of the gift card, gift bag there.
Yeah, perfect, right?
Yeah, another 19 and we hit all of the business on the list.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna listen to recommendations from y'all, or actually at this point, it's just really a motion of this reallocation, and a motion saying how much or what we wanna do on it. And if one motion, this is more a point of order, I guess, if somebody makes a motion and says, I wanna do something, and let's say it does not get approved, can somebody make another motion?
Because that motion does.
Okay, all right. All right, John, you're the champion, you're up.
All right, well then I will stick my neck out on the line and see what y'all have to say, and move to approve the action on a resolution postponing the construction of the spray park and splash pad at the Lotus Fitness disc golf course and sidewalks along Riggs Road, and allocate those funds towards emergency relief efforts to support the Lotus business community. And I'm gonna really stick my neck out and say, let's do it for the full amount of $475,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, all those opposed? All right, motion passes.
We're good.
There you go.
See, that was easy.
Glad you think so.
Good job.
Yeah.
Well, there's things to be passionate about, and I'm glad that, that's part of what we do. Somebody's gotta, if you feel something and you can intelligently discuss it, and we all should be able to listen to it and break it down just like we did.
Yep.
I think we broke it down very much so.
Yeah.
So I would like to work with John, you know what I mean?
Right.
I know it's the whole board, but it was John and Melody.
Yeah.
I'd like to work with John and Melody to kind of really fine tune the criteria
Yep.
on this. And to when we bring it back, we have the criteria
Sure.
fine tuned.
Definitely.
So I will be reaching out with Glenn, and I will kind of fine tune it, work on it, and then probably, get with y'all, if you don't mind that, Blaine, you
No.
know what I mean?
That'd be good.
So that we can fine tune this, and so I have some recommendations, you know what I mean, I would like you to hear me out on some things, so that we can make sure that this is a strong program, and that we incorporate what your thoughts are, what your wants on this is, but yet we, just have a really good program and are doing what we need on this
Right.
program, and that we do get the applicants, you know what I mean, that we do
Mhm.
get that, and that, and then what the next steps are
Yep.
for that,
Sure.
for the 17th.
I think with staff, with y'all's experience and feedback that because y'all were involved in the day-to-days of the grant program, where we just kind of saw it from the outside, so I think definitely your input into making sure that this program is put into a way that's gonna be implemented or gonna be utilized, and then of course John's done a lot, and Melody's done a great job of research, on y'all's end, because I see a lot of language in here. It's coming from different grants and possibly there's even triple P language in there, but I think it's all good. So I'm definitely all on board with that.
I would expect nothing less than to work together. So yes, absolutely, 100% on board.
I look forward to it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got first part of the hard part. Now we're going to move to the second section. Next item, number 11, discussion of and direction on developing an ordinance for the city of Lotus to establish requirements and guidelines for operating food truck parks in Old Town Lotus. All right, so John and Melody, that's again one that's presented by y'all, so why don't you give us some background?
So the idea here, and I will first start off by saying the verbiage food truck park in talking to different folks and getting recommendations is a difference in definition as opposed to what my vision is. A food truck park sort of implies that there are a group of food trucks in a specific area that has picnic tables, perhaps activities, and restrooms. That's not necessarily what I was thinking. Old Town is a very large component of what makes Helotes Helotes. So right now, if you go through Old Town, there's nobody walking. Unfortunately, there's not a lot happening. I'm trying to kind of spur some activity. You know, we don't have market days. We have a small market days coming up, which is great. I'm just trying to get people kind of into Old Town and get some of that, get some of the vibe back, for lack of a better term. So, as opposed to having a food truck park, more allowing different businesses to be able to maybe bring in a food truck for the EDC to maybe sponsor an event where a couple of food trucks are in Old Town, you know, and have some different participating businesses through there. And there are a number of food trucks that are owned by Helotes residents as well, so trying to incorporate that sort of thing. I'm just trying to make something happen. It's basically what it is. I'm not trying to necessarily build a food truck park, you know, to use the example of like what Tony Joe has just down the road there at the Peanuts, the Picoso's Peanuts there. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to get some activity. That's all.
So that's what I was hoping, and so when Glenn and I picked out the attachment A for
Yeah.
and I asked him to look off of that to look up some other ones. He found some, and I said, let's keep it at the small population as Lotus. I think that's what. So one of the things when I first came here is I looked at our code of ordinances,
Right.
and I don't look through it all, but I found some other things. One of the things is we say no mobile food trucks, but then we do have a food truck park definition in no town, but then we don't put regulations on it. So we need to clean that up. But my recommendation is basically something like what Fredericksburg, Texas has, where it defines what a mobile food truck is, and then it tells you how you can permit it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be exactly like this, but it can say you can permit it. It can be one-time events. You know, sometimes at homes or private guests, so we can allow that one time, but you have to permit that so we know that that's happening. Because if it affects the road or affects other things, and I don't know if we're gonna go that direction, but this is something, they talk about that. They talk about, mobile establishment, sorry, permit application. What it is, where you can have it, the sales location, just all the requirements, where the permit needs to be displayed, the items that can be sold there, and then it talks about, the location, at one location, or one, you know, just all this stuff. I would like to have it where it's still just only at Old Town, you know what I mean? So what we can do is within the ordinances, we can rewrite it to say, you're allowed to have it where you have an event, you know what I mean? So you come and get a permit for other places, but then you can have it at Old Town, but you still have to pull a permit so that we know that you're having it there the time of day. And it doesn't have to be an event. You just, but at Old Town, you don't have to have an event. You just need to have a mobile food permit license so that we know it's there. The food inspector has come and checked it like anyone else, you know, like any other food establishment. And then that's it, you know.
Just like they do for market days. Yes.
Exactly,
Yep.
just like they do it for market.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
That's exactly, but
It doesn't have to be on market days.
Yeah,
Right.
it just doesn't have to be on market days.
Could be on a Tuesday.
Yeah, it could be on a Tuesday night, it could be just whatever, and it doesn't have to be related to an event. It
Precisely.
just- Yeah.
That's
precisely.
exactly what I'm,
But we just need to write regulations in that within our ordinance.
Right.
seems simple.
Yeah.
Right. But the question I have is like, just in general, in our code of ordinance, who usually drafts those?
I do.
All right.
Now I do.
That's why I said it sounds simple, because I knew that was the answer.
Now I do.
Yeah.
Now that's my job.
What a fun part of your job.
I think this is a great, I definitely, this was one of my things that, when I first came out, I was like, okay, I don't understand, our ordinance doesn't, it says no, none at all, but yeah,
But it's
it talks,
defined.
yeah, but then on O Town, it says we can have a park, but then there's no I don't know what we can have or can't have.
Right.
So I love this, John, thank you, I mean, I really do. And I'm glad when you said food truck, I was like, no, I really don't.
Yeah, but-
He doesn't want that.
No, no. Truthfully, my vision that I'm sure will never happen is we're kind of having what we see at market days with regard to the food trucks, just not necessarily with market days associated with it, you know. And I mean, the weather's great. It is a beautiful day, you know. I mean, it would have been fantastic just to meander around Old Town, you know, and be able to grab dinner with the family and, you know, try some different things. So that's, I'm just
Just
trying
because
to
there's not a lot of restaurants, and
Right.
so, because you don't have a lot of restaurants, you don't have a lot of buildings to even have restaurants.
Yep.
The best way to have it is a food truck, and then they can come and, you know,
Yeah.
and do that, and then
get coffee,
walk
get wine.
around. Right.
I would still get B-Daddies every day. And go to a food truck, yeah, not
Well,
impartial.
well, if you have that, someone can go to the days that eat out because they like barbecue.
Yep.
Your
Right.
kid can go over here because they like hamburgers, but there's more options.
Yes.
Right.
So I totally get that.
Yep.
So, because you gave us direction on this, I don't need, I mean, if you want us to come back to it, we can. If
No.
not, I can work on this, and that's something I can just bring to council.
I would just like to make this happen.
Okay, then that's fine. That can be done. It's actually been on my list to do, but there's a lot of lists to do.
I'm glad you're happy I gave you work.
It just brought it up,
Yeah,
prioritized it.
glad to help.
So, yes.
Okay. Good, and the nice thing about number 11, you know, we had a discussion, we give some direction, so we don't have any action, nothing to vote on that one.
Nope.
So we're gonna go ahead and, move to number 12, which is also a non-voting item, but it's a discussion item, so discussion of and direction on creating an e-commerce grant program for Helotes businesses, so. Marianne or Glenn, you
I'm
wanna?
gonna blend this one because we'll talk about that.
Marianne's like, I've been talking all the time.
You know, I need to put a timer on there. So this idea really came up during our strategic planning session
Mhm.
on different ways that we could help our businesses. Like, you know, even John mentioned tonight, you know, the grants sometimes can be like a Band-Aid on a larger problem. I personally think a lot of our small businesses are struggling right now because they have no means of selling online, whether it's a restaurant, retail, or any of that. You don't have mobile ordering, just the way a lot of people feel today. You're not gonna make the transaction, you're gonna go somewhere else. So there's a couple of different ways to kind of slice this one up. And this one is direction. So once we know which way we're gonna go, then we can develop a better framework of how this could be implemented and the guidelines and all that kind of eligibility criteria. The ESD is our website designer and our host. Was kind of kicking the idea around to see what they could envision. And one concept was create, like our Shop Lotus website, to make that an e-commerce site so that each business profile now is a shop. Little cumbersome. The upside to it was that it provides a single URL. You know, you're marketing one thing that people can go shop. I think realistically there are some logistics on you know, checking out and managing the fulfillment aspect and everything and making sure that you'd have to check out with one business before going to another. It's not like you can fill your cart from 5 different businesses
Right.
and process it. Where was this? It was actually pretty expensive. So there was a $5,500 multi-vendor e-commerce, a flat fee just to create the site to do it. And then there would be training sessions for each business, getting them a manual of how they can run it themselves, and then the store setup for each business, which is $1,250 per store. Like I said, there are pros and cons. I think I would probably lean to option 2, which is creating individual e-commerce sites,
Right.
and whether that's on some businesses creating it, and maybe others it's improving it or streamlining it to make them more functional. And we can definitely go out and get other quotes. ESD did give me a quote on option 2 as well, and honestly, it fell pretty similar in a price point. They recommend creating a template that could be utilized for multiple businesses, and then just having store onboarding fee. I also reached out to SA Flavor. We've done a few projects with him, like Fiesta Metals. He's big into that end as a designer and stuff. But he manages a small e-commerce site for merchandise, and he does this for a living. His other company is I think megabyte.org or something weird. He's a rack spacer. He used to do their IT and their digital and everything. He reckons it's like Shopify. He said it's easy for a shop owner to do merchandising through that platform, whether it's shipping and tax and payment processing, all that kind of stuff. I know his price point, honestly, is a little bit less as well per business, but it also, for him, he said the more businesses that sign up for the program, the better pricing he could get. So, I just want to get a general guideline. Did you like the idea of creating one mega multi-vendor e-commerce site, or do you like doing this individually for each business?
The question for like the individual e-commerce of this, I'm gonna show you my ineptitude here. But like those individual sites, is it actually through that vendor's website? Or is it something different from their website? Because I know for me, whenever I want to go buy something like, let's take Lotus Tactical, for example, I'll go to Lotus Tactical's website and use their platform to shop and buy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what they're setting up for, or is that what we're helping businesses set up through their own website, or they have a separate, is this a separate?
If we go with option 2,
Okay,
it would be if they have an existing site,
Right.
utilizing that,
okay,
or finding another plugin that works in.
okay,
Because Shopify is more of a plugin. They would maintain like their URL, helotestactical.com,
right,
but when it switches to the e-commerce, it just says shop.
okay,
So it's a simple redirect. On some of the other sites, like if it was a restaurant, we would have to, and that's one thing I've really sat down with ESD. There's going to have to be consulting done. So like B-Daddy's has a website, but they don't have online ordering. They want something that, if they applied, could tie into their POS system. They don't want to be tracking multiple things. So then it's just going to be a little research.
okay. Yeah, because I know for most, except for B-Daddy's, which we've talked to them about it, but most of the other restaurants a lot of the big restaurants in the Lotus are all on either DoorDash, Uber Eats, or Favor, so you can find all of them pretty well. And I just wonder for some of the people that are selling something or selling a service, if they need the help in setting this up so that they can have business easily find them.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, have it all in one site is a little bit, I just don't think a lot of people are gonna think that way. No, it's not the way we're taught to think now. We see a business and we're like, all right, I'm gonna go to their website. First I go to Google Maps, find them, click them, and then I go to their website off of Google Maps. That's just that's the way we're.
And we just want basically the direction which way, and then we can also find other companies that might do it. I mean, these were just the 2 that we that, you know, as an example, you
Mhm.
know, there are other companies, there are other, internet providers and developers that maybe that's what we look at as a developer that also does this, because some of these people don't even have websites, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so maybe it's also not just doing the e-commerce, but part of this is helping them establish a website that includes the e-commerce on top of that, because that's what they need, you know?
Yeah.
But we just didn't know what
It's hard.
direction y'all wanted to go on the e-commerce.
I see this as first and foremost, making sure that all local businesses, and not just brick and mortar, and not just Old Town, you know, this is something, we know of a number of people who run successful businesses out of their homes. It's easy to do these days. If we can help to support them to make sure that their web presence is there, perhaps they're able to hire another employee or something, and then they're able to grow their business. So I'd like to keep that in mind, but first and foremost for me, it's making sure that local businesses have a good web presence, and then secondarily, if we can help them with e-commerce, that's, I think, beneficial.
So you're even looking at just the web presence?
Yeah, just in general, because there are, you know, like, I can think of one restaurant that's relatively new and very popular, they don't even have their menu online,
Right. Yeah.
you know, and like, I don't necessarily care if I can order online, I'm happy to call.
But I wanna see
But
what.
yeah, like, what do you have, you know?
Right, right, over
So
there.
even when I call them, I can see it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
or it's like, you know, somebody took a picture with a flip
Yeah.
phone,
Yeah.
you know, and like posted it and I can't read it, so.
Yeah.
But
Then you
anyways,
zoom in and it's like all blurry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
exactly, so I just wanna make sure that our businesses are utilizing the web and social media, or at least the web, as efficiently as possible.
Okay. So we do know a couple of other web designers,
Mhm.
that I know I do, that I've worked with, outside of, in my previous city. So we will reach out to them and to get some quotes, because they don't just do e-commerce, but they do web design.
Cool.
So that we can get some idea.
Mhm.
They actually, work together with, the other chamber, and because that chamber actually did a grant sponsorship from the other city, and, help, like you said, small businesses that didn't have web presence,
Mhm.
and they set up websites for them. So we'll start reaching out to different.
Do you have a website?
Mhm.
Like, is it a good one? Like,
Yes.
I don't mean this, I don't mean that to sound rude, but do you think it could be better? Are there things that you wish you could do with it?
I'm sure there's always room for improvement.
Right, and I'm certainly not trying to pick on you or be rude, but that's what I want you to be able to get help with as a small business owner. You know, I want you to say, how can I make this better? And
Yeah.
some 19-year-old say, oh, just do this. And you're like, oh, that seems so simple to you, you young person.
So the program that was launched before was where, this web designer came in and said, okay, I can do, there's a template. You know,
Yes.
For this much, this is the template that everybody gets. Of course, it's gonna look a little different because you have your logo in this. And so for this amount, this is the template, because it works for everybody, we just changed a couple of things. And when you look at it, it actually looked different, but on the back end, it was really
It was the same.
for everybody.
Mhm.
But then, so with that, the chamber set that up for all, they paid for that for all these people.
Yeah.
Then they said, but for an extra $500 or extra whatever, that if that business wanted that extra, then they would work with them one-on-one for that extra money to customize it even
Right.
more. You know what I mean? So that's what we could do, say for this amount of money, this is what we provide to at least just get them a web presence. And then if that shop owner, that business owner wanted to customize it even more, then that's on them.
Right.
But at least we can get them.
Give them started.
I think there's gonna be different levels. There's gonna be some people that just need to get going, and there's some people that, yeah, I got something that probably needs a lot of help.
Yeah.
Or there might be something that, yeah, I've got it looking pretty good, but I just don't know how to market my product or my service.
What's the next level?
Yeah.
I mean, what's my next step up? Yeah,
I
yeah,
like that, yeah.
cool. Nice.
Okay. Well,
That was my
that
direction.
ends item number 12, so we don't have anything to vote on there, just direction for staff, which we'll look forward to.
We'll come back with
Yeah,
that, with
look
those
more, I don't know.
options.
So now we have, our staff report to update us on the new, EDC website.
I think you have to pull that down.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Pictures, yes.
Movie night is back.
What should bring that big blow
I know.
up screen inside here?
You gotta be right under it.
Oh, it's going.
I hope we watch, oh,
Oh, that's too much. Hopefully this gets a little bit brighter.
Melody, will you turn off the lights right there next to you?
So, this is still not live, and obviously the formatting changes to the aspect ratio of our screen. So we've been in development now for a little longer than I would like to have been, but I think with Snowmageddon and a few other things, ESD was primarily work getting the city's website redesigned and launched, and that happened in mid-December, if I recall, and then they really focused on getting the EDC site. So there's going to be a lot of similarities in the general layout and look. But we really worked on trying to streamline everything and making things a lot easier to find. So our top menu on why Lotus. So keep in mind that the EDC sites, typically you're looking for, or it's marketed, right, towards either site selectors or prospects or people wanting to build a business in Lotus. So there's a small thing on a brief description on the Lotus overview, and since this is on a temporary server, it is going to be really slow. So we did produce a video that will kind of be in the background. There's two places that it's going to be seen. And then obviously we've got some text on little history on Lotus. And whoa, we just crashed. There's also a video from the mayor about, I think it's, welcome to Lotus. Business stories will be something that is just filler right now, but we're trying to get businesses to tell us why they love Helotes, why they built in Helotes, and then we're going to feature them on our website. And so they're good. It's almost like a little directory, so you'll be able to click it and see comments from them. This is also going to be featured right here on the scrolling banner. So each business will be able to, kind of scroll across, and a little advertising for them, and definitely promotes us. Lifestyle has a couple of different links to local events, parks, how they kind of, that's marketplace. That would be our community calendar. So the same thing, on education and public safety. The history I thought was kind of neat. It's going to be a timeline. And I've reached out to Cynthia Massey. She's got more knowledge than anyone else in Lotus about everything from the 1700s until now.
oh, wonderful.
So,
Yeah.
there we go. So it literally is going to be a timeline, and we can pick milestones or things we want to highlight. I personally think like Florida should be on here when they started, and then we'll have a button to click to go read more about that milestone or business. Under business climate, we'll have our business directory, which is shoplotus.com, demographics, partnerships, taxes, utilities, so people can see, like, even on taxes. And a lot of people don't realize our sales tax is low. Compared to San Antonio, we're at 8%, not 8.25%. Property tax, we're one of the lowest in the area, and I've actually highlighted some of the other cities. This demographic thing is a plugin, pay with GIS planning. You can actually generate custom graphs and infographics. Let's see, the taxes. I think it's always kind of interesting. So I try to pick some of the other cities that, either nearby or that people are looking to relocate, Leon Valley, San Antonio, Bernie, New Braunfels. So we're the lowest out of everybody, right? And then that's the sales tax. And then a little brief thing on hotel occupancy. Site selection, we just signed a contract contract with a new provider for commercial listings here at Lotus. I had a conference call with them this morning, and they have a staff dedicated to contacting each of the brokers. Regardless if they have a listing here in Lotus, they will contact every broker that is active in Bear County.
Wow.
And they do it on a monthly basis. They will, it's a API plug-in to the website. So right now you're gonna see a little bit on the old, but they just started. So he said in 45 days he should have this all updated with pictures, contact information, everything. And then he's gonna loop me in every time he updates it, so I can make sure that property is in Helotes and not Helotes address that's actually San Antonio. I know that's something that's we had an issue with the previous vendor. And then development process. People always want to know, what does it take? We try to make it pretty simple. Sorry. Just on the screen, it formats it a little more different. So on code enforcement, on what they need to do, the permit inspection process, and this leads right to the city site. I think something like incentives, it's formatted a little bit different than our old site. We'll have tabs on here for local incentives with a brief description, and state incentives, same thing. And then there's a step-by-step guide of what they need to do. Reaching out to us, filling out a form that we have to go to EDC boards and city council for approval. The maps are what I'm trying to work on now. So there is a layer map where you can do some heat maps on whether it's population or specific demographic or labor force. You can see what the density is, and then we have the regular zoning maps and city limits and aquifer and all that. And then our data center, again, the community profile is the same thing as demographics, just kind of phrased it differently in this spot. We do have traffic counts, which we pay for every couple of years. We have hired L&B to throw those out at key locations on Bandera, on FM1560, on Houseman. Right now, I don't think it's a good time to do it because traffic patterns are vastly different now than
All of the guys.
yeah. And then obviously the about is going to be, agendas and notices and staff, all that kind of stuff. The nice thing I think that we're going to have on here when you click the EDC, set up the same format as the city. Our meetings will be here. We'll have the minutes, the videos, the agendas. Everything will be right in the line from the day of the meeting, so easy to access.
And then the way we're gonna do the agenda, the way we're gonna also do it with, is you're gonna see the PDF, but right now you click on it and you have to scroll to see all of it. You'll be able to click on each item and just see the backup to that item. So if you're only interested in item,
Yeah, you don't have to go
you
through
don't have to
it.
scroll through everything, yes. So
Uh,
that's gonna be the new format.
Looks
And
great, like it, yeah.
Yeah, on the
I think
homepage.
it's good looking, it's very graphical, which,
Yeah.
I think it's gonna appeal to a lot of people.
Yeah, well,
That's the bottom of the page right there.
Yeah.
So I mean, we didn't want a lot of scrolling. This, when you first load it, rolls through the numbers. Right now, it will not let us put a comma, and that really bugs me, but we'll see. In these hot buttons, what I kind of reference them, they can be changed anytime. So if we see our site analytics that there's another category that people are clicking more frequently, we can swap it out.
Right. So if we get our new grant program up, there could be a hot
Yes.
button straight to the grant program.
Even like now, we've got one for like COVID-19, so
Yeah.
whether it's our grant program or state or PPP or whatever, we're trying to keep an accurate database of everything. I think it's really clean.
Yeah, it is. It's very nice.
It looks great.
So we should we actually should be able to launch here pretty soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the update. All right. Well, I see we're at the bottom. I think we're back to, down to the favorite part of it. So, I will now entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All right, so we got a motion, we got a motion in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, so we are
Aye.
at 8:53. We are down there. Thank y'all for everybody's time.
Thank you everyone thank you for hearing me out.
Y'all, have a great night.
Yeah, you too, Rick.
Thank you for the spirit and
Thanks.
that's what I want.
Yes. Okay.
No, I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. For a multitude of reasons. You know, I mean, it's not.